Welcome, everybody, and thanks to all of you for attending this first event in the ClearPix webinar series. My name is Gianluca Nacci, and I am the General Manager of the Middle Eastern branch of ClearPix. I will spend the next 5 minutes introducing the webinar agenda, our company and capabilities, and then I will leave the floor to Diman Day, who is the head of the ClearPix Advanced Analytics, Machine Learning, and Artificial Intelligence team. Because of the broad audience to this webinar, we have disabled the speech on attendees. So we recommend you to ask your questions using the Q&A function that you see in the Zoom control panel below. We are reserving a bit of time for answering all your questions towards the end of the webinar, if we can, of course. Whatever remains unanswered, it will be dealt with after the webinar via mail. The purpose of this webinar is to demonstrate the advantages of using machine learning in the context of business use cases, such as this classic human resource case, managing and reducing employee attrition. During this webinar, we will briefly introduce our company and services, why we are concentrating on this specific business case, and what type of insight we are looking for. We'll have a glance at the tools that we have used to obtain it, in this case, NIME and Tableau, and a full-fledged demo with the architecture, the reports, and dashboards through which we understand the key findings. And using the predictive capabilities of NIME, we find out how to reduce attrition costs and maximize employee value and satisfaction. Next. A couple of words about ClearPix. We are an end-to-end business analytics consultancy firm operating worldwide for the last 20 years with a broad customer and projects portfolio and success stories that span across more than 20 industries. Our headquarters is in Barcelona, in Spain, and we have offices in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Our services, as you can see, span from business intelligence to big data and advanced analytics, complemented by web and mobile capabilities for tailored solutions. We invest in the leading and most state-of-the-art technologies and methodologies to help our users make the most of our data, whatever the data are and wherever the data are. Next. To help our customers achieving their business goals, we provide a full end-to-end portfolio of services, from the inception of the data journey by estimating the company readiness and formulating together a strategy, to determining what are the program success factors and business requirements, to then implementing and supporting the business intelligence, big data, and ML AI project, under a solid data governance and management layer. The outcome of our work spans from executive and management-oriented analytics to real-time operational and tactical data discovery reporting and enablement, to web and mobile applications made just for you. For this webinar, however, what we will concentrate on is our advanced analytics capabilities. Next. The ClearPix Advanced Analytics team comprises all key skills and profiles in the AI world and has certifications and specializations in all the leading tools, and with functional knowledge in more than 20 industries, which is what we consider a key differentiator. Next. Our consultants are able to hold your hand throughout your whole machine learning and artificial intelligence journey, from advising and planning to implementing and supporting use cases and platform. Our PIL program, which is a quick start for companies about to embark in their first advanced analytics program or are looking for fast and high value delivery, covers more than 15 use cases across industries as of today, and more to come. In this webinar, however, we will analyze a specific one for human resources function, that is, how to reduce employee attrition. Let me therefore pass the baton to my colleague Diman, who will take you through it. Diman, over to you.
Thanks, Gian, and welcome everyone once again to this webinar of using machine learning to reduce employee attrition in your organization. So quickly jumping into the business case that we have at hand. So we all understand employee attrition. It's basically when your employees are planning to leave your organization. So associated with that particular use case comes a lot of different impacts, especially with the recruitment side of things, especially on the cost impact side of things. And at the same time, how could you maintain the business value that you have within your business processes, and how those gets impacted with a scenario like employee attrition. So we are going to talk about a lot of attributes and lot of metrics that we consider uh, along with the employee attrition wherever it gets impacted. And we are going to look at how we can utilize machine learning to actually reduce the percentage of employee attrition. At the same time, also try to understand the impact of cost related metrics for the associated employee attrition. So I'm going to take a few minutes trying to explain the detailed structure of information that is given in this slide. So on the left hand side, we have two major sections of metrics. One is the attrition cost and one is the employee value. And this is going to be our key central point around the entire solution. Okay. So first thing first, the attrition cost. So we all understand what attrition is, and we all understand the business process around what employee attrition can cost us. But none of us or most companies in this modern world try to empirically count or calculate the actual realistic cost associated with business employee attrition. Okay, so it can be certain direct cost, certain indirect costs, and some long term and tactical costs as well. So for example, how do you calculate cost? So there are different aspects of attrition cost impact that you can consider. Number one is the recruitment cost associated after you see a employee leaving your organization. Second is something of a subjective term to it, like productivity cost. So what we mean by productivity cost is, let's say you have a sales personnel leaving your organization. To bring a new hire, to make them at the same level or at the same productivity of the person leaving your organization, takes a little bit of time. Okay, and during that time you are basically spending a lot of different expenses on that particular employee. uh, Things like training, things like bringing up to speed, and let's say building the same level of rapport with the existing customer bases, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of different aspects of the cost impacts that can come associated with employee attrition. We are going to cover those areas. What we generally do is, based on our experience with multiple clients in the region and in the European sections as well, what we do is we come up with a holistic understanding of what could be the appropriate attrition cost formulae. Okay, so having said that, it's not necessarily something written on stone. uh, for this demo, we have taken a certain structure of that particular cost calculation. When we do this implementation for any customers, we take into consideration that every business or every organization or every team is different than the other. So we bring in the necessary customizations that is required for specific to your needs. Okay, now that's the employee cost side of things, or the attrition cost side of things. At the same time, we also have something called a framework to understand employee value. So I understand you would all agree that determining or calculating employee value in a single number would be really really difficult, because most of the attributes that are actually covering employee value might be subjective in nature. So this is where, again, what we do is we try to imbibe or embody a culture of data driven analysis. So we try to understand what are the different groups of or clusters of people that you have within our organization, to understand what kind of value that they are generating. So there can be different aspects. Again, situations might be different from organizations to organizations and teams to teams, but in a broad scale it can be different performance rating, the experience and the skills that they bring into the organization, and the different job satisfaction metrics, like how is your relationship with your teammates, how is your relationship with your line manager? How is your overall job satisfaction or work-life balance? All these different subjective metrics that you come along during your tenure within an organization can be actually captured and brought into the model as well. At the same time, it also answers or looks at the perspectives of emotional aspects of employee welfare as well. So this is a very, very excellent area where you can capture those you know uh, very subjective quotients as well. So that's the left hand side of things. On the right hand side, you see this graph, basically trying to explain from the moment of a particular employee joining your organization to when they get their first assignment and start being productive. So the red point that you see in the middle, on left towards that, is from new hiring to onboarding to training till the moment you get uh, till you give them the new assignment. This entire period is called the investment zone. Okay. And after that onwards, it's basically called the return zone. So we basically try to understand how this can be optimized, how we can lower the investment zone or the investment impact as much as possible and increase the return zone as much as possible at the same time. Having said all these things, so there are major information that we take into consideration while coming up with this framework. Number one is our vast experience with our different clients across the globe. And number two, we take studies into concern, like standard establishments like McKinsey, Nielsen, and firms like those. But at the same time, we also uh, take into consideration that the studies that these establishment does is very generic in structure. We keep those studies in mind while we take it to customers, and we try to make customizations as specific to your needs. Okay, moving on. So end of the day, uh, the whole solution is going to be revolving around this cost and value optimization game. So okay, how much value are you trying to retain, or how much value is trying to go out of your organization? What's the cost impact associated with it? And at the same time, trying to answer that, given a particular cost budget, what is the number of value, what is the amount of value that you can retain back? So as you can see, the entire aspect of a very subjective notion of employee attrition has been actually converted through a well studied framework from us, is going to take you and handhold you to actually convert that entire subjective notion into an empirical structure where it can be compared and analyzed in a very data driven way. Okay, and that's the core essence of our delivery methodology, to enable you, instead of going by your gut feelings, or instead of going by standard experience based strategies, we also bring in, or we also try to enable you with the data driven decision making culture as well. Now quickly, what do we solve, and what's the deliverables, and what are the value tracking that we get out of this entire solution, or this entire machine learning or AI solution? So the business case, as we have all known, to understand employee attrition, why things are happening the way that is happening within your organization, and after that, we give you the deliverables in terms of a predictive model that can predict whether a particular employee is going to leave your organization or not. Okay, and then also to understand what are the driving factors, the standard dashboards, and simulation environment. So simulation environment is where you basically try to play around with different numbers of, let's say, certain benefits of work from home, or no travel required, or increasing the work life balance, and all those different things, or increasing the, or whether you want to give them a promotion or not, or a hike is required or not, what kind of hike percentage would you give them? So that kind of a simulation environment is going to help whoever is making the decision to get some idea behind what kind of preventive strategy that you can take whenever you're thinking about retaining certain high risk uh, potential value employees. So value tracking is very simple. So first of all, you get full visibility towards the insight around employee attrition, whether it's the amount of people leaving, or it's the percentage of people leaving, or what are the cost impacts, how do you retain and try to increase the retention of high value employees, and overall, reducing the cost impact and the business value impact that you have due to employee attrition. So next we are going to go on to tools and architecture. So on the left hand side, you have the data model. In middle, we have the machine learning modeling area. On the right hand side, we have the decision making tools. The data model strictly speaks about 5 thought through employees information in 5 major categories. One is the demographics, where you have the age, gender, education, and metrics like those. Then comes the performance, the feedback from your manager, from your clients, the salary increase that you had, the performance rating that you had over the past years, and so on. Employees, basically the profile with job. What are you working in an overtime structure? Do you require, what's your salary? Have you gone through any trainings and such information? The job tracker specifically talks about the role that you work in, which department, who's your line manager, how many years of experience, how many years have you been working in that role, and so on. Satisfaction metrics are basically done through different survey analysis. It can be different for different organizations, can be quarterly, can be half yearly, can be yearly. Things like, what's your environment of work, how would you rate those, what's your job involvements, maybe a quick summary feedback of your line manager, or your relationship status with your teammates and your line managers as well. So once you have all these different attributes as well, you basically bring them together, bring into a platform where you can apply your machine learning, and then take those insights to a dashboard which is much more convenient for consumption for the HR managers or the HR directors, where they have in their tip of their hands all the information that they require for the decision making. So this is a structure of the data model that we have for ease of use and for ease of onboarding purposes. What we have done is we have given you the model in an Excel sheet. And as you can see, there are multiple sheets for each of the aspects of data that we are capturing. The first page explains the attributes in detail. Going forward, you can see a sample of data set that you can bring in from your own organization, and just give us this Excel. We plug that into our solution, and you quickly see what kind of value you're going to get out of the solution. That's without customizations, of course, but if required, after we do the first run, we see what kind of customization that needs to be done with the modeling, or if you want to bring in some of your own metrics that are not captured within the data model that we have, that can be brought in as well. In terms of the tools and architectures that we have used NIME as the NIME tool, or the NIME analytics platform, as our machine learning platform. We have taken the data in form of an Excel, okay, with 5 different sheets. And then for visualization purposes, we have taken the information back to Tableau for to create the dashboards necessary for consumption. At the same time, as I've explained earlier, that we also have a simulation uh, you know area where you can play around with different configurations for different prevention strategies of retention of attrition. So that is actually done through a guided analytics workflow in the NIME web portal, the web version of NIME. Okay, so we have talked about a lot of things. Let's quickly get into the demo. So what you see here is the NIME web portal. Okay, the moment you start the workflow, you can basically upload your own data. Okay, so I've already uploaded the data. It's around 35 MB, so I've uploaded beforehand, and these are the different sheets that I'm going to look at. Okay, so it's very simple. Just access the file that you would like to upload and just select that, and it would get uploaded. You do next. What it does right now is it's going to do some exploratory data analysis around the data set that we have just uploaded. So it's going to run through the workflow that we have for the data, massaging and the pre-processing steps that it is required. It is going to join all the necessary data sets that we have bring them under one structured information, and then trying to give you a quick glimpse about the input data that you have. So first and foremost, you have this raw structure of data sets that you have. As you can quickly see, we have information like past status, like whether the employee has attrited or not, whether yes, no, two different classes. You have age, gender, marital status, education related stuff, and then work life balance and all these different job related metrics. Then also certain survey metrics, like whether do you need to travel frequently or rarely, or do you not travel at all, which departments, what's your job level, number of companies that you have worked in, total working experience, number of years in the current role, your salary information, overtime information, and all those things. Okay, if you quickly go down, what you can see is a quick understanding of the data set that you have. So they give you a quick glimpse of the histogram and the statistical figures of min, max, the 5-point summaries, the variances, and all those things. It also gives you an understanding whether you have any missing values or any null values in your data set or not for rectification purpose. Quick understanding of the data. Okay, please understand this is not part of the dashboard would come much later, but this is just a process through which a certain business analyst or the HR manager, if they are doing the analysis from scratch, what are the different steps that they would go through. Okay, or the data scientist in your team, what were the steps that they would go through. So if I would like to understand what are the levers, high number of levers that I have, you'll see most of them are from the research and development team. And by performance rating, you can see, most of them are coming from the medium to solid performance areas as well. Now, if I go by department, sales representatives, if I go by job role, sales representatives are the highest in number. And if I go by salary range, the lower salary brackets are really, really high in number. Okay. So this gives you kind of a insight that maybe salary is a attributing factor to this employee attrition. We'll look into it, what the model tells us. So we go next, and what we have here is a quick summary of all the different models that we have run. Now also quickly, just a notion of uh, a brief understanding of what kind of data set that we had. uh, there is a high imbalance in the data set that we have, because what I mean by imbalance is, uh, let's say almost less than 9 or 8% of the people are actually planning to leave. So the number of people within your entire organization who are actually predicted to be leaving are very, very less. So in that case, we need to try to minimize the false positives as much as possible. So from a very technical standpoint, we would target to minimize the or get the maximum amount of F measure that is possible. So in that case, the best model was the multi-layer perceptron, and we also get the summary of the other models that we have used, like gradient boosting and random forest. If we go to the next, we're going to quickly understand the summary of the people who are leaving, and trying to get an understanding of what are the different factors that the people that we have predicted to leave, that we have predicted that might leave the organization, what are the splits across those. Okay, so quickly, the employees that are that are at risk, that we have predicted is around that 7%. Okay, by department, if you see, the maximum is from sales representatives. Okay, and if you go by performance rating, solid performers are the highest again. So that's a area of concern again. So this is something in tandem to what we have seen with your historical data set as well. Okay, for people who love Excel related analysis, you can download the model output in a CSV format for your local analysis as well. So what we are going to do here is, so as you can see below, we have this Tableau dashboard here. So we're going to quickly go there, and this is how it looks like. So imagine you are an HR manager or an HR director of a particular organization. You would try to understand what's the analysis of the or the predicted employee attrition analysis that you can look at. So as you can see, the number of people or the percentage of people that are at risk are at around 7.3%. Okay, not at risk is 92.7. By gender, male has a larger proportion compared to the female. At risk by business travel, you can see travel rarely has more proportion in both the cases for male and female. So that's an interesting notion to look at. So you being an HR manager or a director, you would like to understand why is travel rarely has a has a higher proportion than travel frequently. So if people are willing to travel more frequently, why would they not be willing to uh, why are they not willing to travel rarely? So when we went back to the business process to understand what's happening around this particular attribute, we found out that people who travel frequently, they are already accustomed to that particular work life routine, and people who are not traveling, they are also more or less accustomed to that structure as well. It's only those people who are asked to travel on an ad hoc basis, which basically asks them to travel very very rarely, but whenever that thing happens, uh, they tend to be very unhappy with that particular situation. Okay. Now again, as we have seen something very relatable in previous analysis, the sales department has more levers overall, whether it's female or male as well. Now by the salary hike, as you can see, uh, having higher salary hikes doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to stay with the company, which is really interesting. So there might be some other factors that are at play here. We have also taken into consideration parameters like at risk by the distance from home. So we assume that for certain people, maybe traveling or commuting, every daily commute can be a really really pain point. But as we can see, the it's quite fluctuating in different areas. For people who are traveling from far, from middle, from less distances, have more or less the same average risk factors going on. Coming to the business aspect of things, where we basically understand the cost impact of the people planning to leave. And here is what we are going to see, the real you know jaw-dropping numbers. So we have a set of data set where we are covering almost uh, 15 and a half and around 15,004 for 1540 employees within the data set. Out of that, we see almost only 90 people are at risk. uh, but based on the framework which we use to calculate the attrition impact cost, we see that over a large period of time, your attrition cost impact is going to stand at around 3.5 million US dollars. Okay, which is a really really high number. Okay. Now, at the same time, the second visual that you see here is on the x-axis, you have the employee score, that's the value score. And on the y-axis, you have the attrition cost. So as you can see, the more and more value that the people are bringing in, the attrition cost impact are also going to be growing in numbers as well. And as you can see, we have also done a very preliminary clustering algorithm here to give you a basic understanding of how they are grouped together. So as you can see, uh, high value, but medium range of, high attrition cost and medium value for employees is a different cluster altogether. That's marked in red. The orange ones are basically where you have high value as well as kind of medium range of cost associated with that. And then you have the low range, low cost and low value employee segment that's marked in blue. Um, Associated attrition costs by travel frequency. Again, travel rarely is really, really, coming up high in proportion. For people who have not been promoted in the last 0 to 2 years, have high proportion of, being attrited from the organization. Uh, but of course, we all know that everybody must always thinks that they should get a promotion every year or two, but that's not practical. But it's still a good indicator trending towards the norms. Then again, we see sales have a high proportion for the male segments in terms of the attrition cost, but for the female, we see that the research and development has a major proportion. Okay, by job levels, experienced senior people and the senior people or the manager segments of people are high in numbers in terms of the attrition cost. Now, in below, you have the breakdown of all the different cost attrition cost per employee, and if you go down, they are highlighted in high numbers as well. If you just select one of those, you can also see that highlighted in the second visual on top. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to jump back into the web flow that we had. Okay, and we are going to click next, and here is what you get is what we spoke about regarding the simulation area. So if you remember, this is kind of the same visual that we had earlier here. This is basically the value and cost visual, but in a much more larger canvas. So what we are going to do is we are going to select the people that we would like to understand. If we would like to retain these people, what would be the cost impact associated with them? So what I'm going to do is quickly select this lasso tool and select this almost red and yellow clusters of people that we had, the high value, high cost segments. The moment you select them, you have them populated here in the below table. So we have around 12 people added. So what we are going to do is we are going to tune around with certain parameters here. So the parameters that you can tweak around is either for all these people selected, you can give them, let's say 10% of increase to everyone. Okay. Or you can give them, let's say, if you think that maybe the trainings given to these people last year was very minimal, or they need to be cross-trained, so you increase the number of trainings. Okay. But in my opinion, I would like to go with a tuning or a parameter set which doesn't involve any cost. So training as well as any kind of performance increase, monthly income increase would have some added cost impact. So let's keep these ones at 0 for now. What we are going to do is, let's say if we improve their, other, associated metrics in play. Let's say we tell them you don't require to travel anymore. Okay, let's say we take away the overtime aspect of your work profile or your role profile, and let's say we try to increase your work-life balance. At the same time, if you want to give certain specific changes to certain people, you can also do that, double clicking the information at a granular level as well. So let's say we are not making any changes as of now. The only changes that we are making is the travel frequency. We are asking them not to travel. We are asking them of no overtime, and we're trying to increase their work-life balance as well. And once we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to click next and let the machine learning model from the backend, try to predict what kind of impact that it might have. At the same time, we would also like to see what kind of cost impact that we're looking at. So let's say we had around 12 people. So here all of them have predicted no. So that's good. And we have 2 more people. So that's almost around 7 out of 12 people who are going to be, persuaded to stay back. Now, this is a very manual way of looking at it. So for ease of use and use of visibility and consumption, we have also given you another dashboard. So once you go to this attrition comparison, it is quickly going to give you the number of people that you can actually save or retain based on the parameters that you have just chosen. So because I've run this simulation one more time, I've just clicked the refresh, and that what it shows is how many people that you can save. So earlier, before you had 90, after you applied the changes that you wanted to do without any cost impact, you basically decrease, basically are able to retain seven people. The attrition improvement has gone down by 0.5, which is really great. At the same time, you can also understand and have a look at what are the, attrition decrease that you have seen in different departments and different job roles. But the most important of all is the cost savings that you have seen. So earlier you had around around 5 million US dollars of impact. Right now you see around 2.3 million. So that's almost a third of your cost impact saved by just, retaining, 7 people in your organization. Or just to give you some insights around which are the 7 people that you should target without giving any kind of, monetary or any kind of cost uh, centric benefit. So just talking to them, just making sure, we give them uh, a relatable work environment or a relatable profile in which they are more accustomed working in, is going to help them stay back in the company. Of course, this is not going to help you with all your needs. So you can again go back to this particular simulation area and you can make some changes. Sorry. And let's say your HR director gets to know that he or she has around, let's say, a 500,000 budget for retention. So that 500,000 US dollars might be uh, related to trainings, related to different hike promotions, or so on. So let's say I select a very the low segment of the employees, and try to give them let's say a 10% increase, and let's say a couple of trainings a year. Okay. Let's go back to the model and do a quick refresh. Seems like you're not able to retain any one of them. So again, this also proves that, what we have seen earlier during the, exploratory data analysis phase, that maybe salary hike is something that they're looking for, but in reality it's not. So what you can do is again go back here and make changes and understand what kind of strategy is actually what your people are looking for. Okay. So that's in essence, or in wholesome, is what a data driven decision making culture looks like. And this is what we are trying to enable you in your team or in your organization. Okay. So that's the demo. uh, let's go back to the slides. So to wrap up and conclude what we have seen, uh, so what we have is, you have a predefined data model, okay, taking into consideration different aspects of employee attrition, their profile, their demographics and such, and you process them, load the data, process them, train a model, and try to understand what kind of employee attrition impact are you looking for in terms of numbers, in terms of cost, and try to do a value and cost optimizations around that. So we also have related documents around this entire thing that we have just showcased in we have 2 blog articles in our ClearPeaks blog that you please feel free to have a look at. We have a NIME workflow that we have created around this particular use case. So this workflow is also available in the NIME hub. Okay. And we have a blog article regarding the same in the NIME website as well. Now, of course, maybe some of you are thinking that, okay, I do not have NIME. Am I still going to get, is it still possible for me to get this solution working in my platform? The answer to that is absolutely. We'll do that customization for you, whatever, machine learning or, data platform that you have on your end. We'll offload the entire solution to that specific platform and get you onboarded to this particular solution as quickly as possible. So all in all, in your journey, you need 3 things. One is a platform which can do your machine learning and AI stuff. One is the visualization tool that's can be either OBIE or Tableau or Power BI or Click or any sort of visual tool for that matter. And of course, you need a partner like ClearPeaks who understands in and out that it's not about just creating a model, just talking about buzzwords, but also taking it through and through till the end and enabling with you the right tools, and not only the right tools but the correct framework of decision making, capitalizing on the machine learning model that we have just built. Quick go through around the numbers. So from start to finish, including software installation, the data transformations and curation, the ML modeling, and the AI, data science capabilities to implement the dashboarding integration and to a full-fledged release. For this solution, it would take 20 days from start. Okay, the effort that is required from your end goes from 5 to 10 days, depending on what kind of phase we are in. Software installation, we would require a little bit of help from your network and infra team. We'd need some time from your data source SMEs, the business analysts, the IT team regarding the data analysis, the curation, which sources to connect to understand more functionality about your data and business process. We would need the data source SMEs or the business analyst in your team. For the data dashboarding and integration, we would need maybe a single day from your IT team as well. So any questions? Let's take any questions that you have. Okay, so it seems no questions have been asked so far. We are still here. If you have any further questions regarding the solution, regarding any logistics around the solution, you can reach us at the given information. Okay, we have multiple webinars coming up in the series. One is talking about how can you optimize the pricing in your retail industry. Okay, how would you improve recruitment process using something we have in-house called Intelligent Talent Finder, and we have the one very cool webinar regarding how do you enable your company or organization to listen to the different social media and take necessary insights out of it. And then on the BI side of things, we have the unleashing the power of Power BI and how we can bring in the power of AI into Power BI and make them integrated seamlessly. So I'm going to leave you guys to take notes around these areas. Okay. And please feel free to get back to us if you have any questions.
Thank you, everybody, for attending our webinar. We would like also to point out that the registration of this webinar will be provided on a public social media sometime soon. So stay tuned. And thanks a lot again for attending this webinar. See you at the next time.